Alright, so I'm going to create a quick little video just to kind of help if you're still getting stuck on what layer masks are, why we're using them, so on. Okay? So essentially what layer masks allow us to do is non-destructively edit our pictures. Okay? And non-destructive is important because destructive destroys things. Obvious. So let's say I have this picture here of this girl and I want to do some crazy effect to it. I want to change the background to something else, let's say. So if I just go in here and I can't erase, okay, because I'm on the background layer and all erasing is doing right now is just filling with white. Okay, so I'm going to double click this, hit OK. This makes it an actual layer that I can erase and I get the checkerboard background. As I get close to her and I start erasing stuff, I hit E, there we go. There we go. I start erasing stuff. Eventually I'm going to get to the point where I've accidentally, let me throw a new layer underneath this just so you can see what I'm doing. I've accidentally erased part of her arm. Okay? Now there's no way for me to get that back except for hitting undo. But let's pretend that I don't have enough undos. Let's pretend that I've saved this work, I've come back the next day and then realized that I've erased it. I'm screwed basically. Okay? So I'm just going to hit undo because I have the undos. And I'll make that same red layer underneath. There we go. So what I can do is I can add a layer mask. Okay, so this is the layer mask. And what it allows me to do is paint black on areas I want to get rid of. Oops. Paint black. There we go. So where I'm painting black right now is basically making it see-through. So this area is invisible. Okay, if I turn off that red layer, you can see how we get that checkerboard pattern below it. So with the layer mask, it just allows me to hide some of the stuff. Now some of the key features of this is that I have to be clicked on that layer mask. Okay, if I'm clicked on here and I start erasing, or I start painting, it's painting red. Okay, so if I turn my background layer off, you can still see how I have red there because I'm actually painting red on that layer. When I switch to the layer mask, you see that I don't even get an option for colors here. Even if I choose a color, I get some form of gray, okay? Because the layer mask is only black and white and shades of gray. So if you have black, it's invisible. If you have white, it's visible. So if I accidentally went like this, okay, or my kid did, or my cat did, or whatever. I don't have a cat, but if I did, and it did it, I could switch to white. So now I'm painting with white, and I can get that stuff back. Okay, so that's the point of a layer mask, is that it allows us to do that kind of stuff. Okay, so black makes it invisible, so I can get really close here, and then if I make a boo-boo, I can hit white to paint with white, and then I can bring that stuff back. Okay, but I have to make sure that I'm on the layer mask. If I click here, you can see how there's a tiny white border around this. If I click there, there's a tiny white border around that. Okay, so I have to make sure I'm on the layer mask. My properties say layer mask. I'm only allowed to paint in black and white. Those are indicators that I'm actually on the layer mask to do that. Okay, so now I can right click on this. I can disable the layer mask just to see what my original image looks like, and then right click and enable it. And I can see that there's my mistake. That was where I started painting with red. So obviously I made a mistake. I can apply the layer mask, which basically kind of commits those changes to that. Now I hardly would ever do that unless I have a specific reason for doing something like that. Okay, but I typically will duplicate it and then hide the original and then right click on the layer mask and say apply. That way, in case I screw up, I can always have something to go back to. Okay, so now I can move this around wherever I need to. I can duplicate it and have two copies of the girl right there. Okay, for whatever reason I needed two copies of this specific girl. Okay, so those are layer masks. There's also something called clipping masks. So let me delete this layer mask. And if I create another layer and I color it like this, Okay, and then I hold down the Alt key and click between these. Oops, let me do it backwards. There we go. The layer mask, or the clipping mask in this case, is below it. And all this is doing is saying, whatever there is something on this layer, that's what I want to see. So in a way, it's kind of like a layer mask. A clipping mask is kind of like a layer mask, but not 100% the same. Okay, there's a bit of a difference in that the fact of the ordering, and I really can't change the order of this without having something else. Like if I had this picture of this blue, and I wanted to shuffle this stuff here, I have to grab both of these things and move both of these things down. Oops. Okay, so it's a little bit trickier to get used to, and then I accidentally broke it, so then I have to go and put it back together. So sometimes we'll use clipping masks, sometimes we'll use layer masks. It all depends on what we're doing. And some of the things that I'm showing are for the reason of getting you exposed to these things just so you know what they are. Okay? So this is a clipping mask when you see something like this. The layer mask, remember, is when we have the thing here. Now I can actually have a clipping mask and a layer mask. Okay, so you see I'm also erasing on here. I could also make visible on there. All right, so there's lots of different things we can kind of combine several different elements together in order to get the desired results. I could even go to layer 2 and put a clipping mask or layer mask on that too. Okay, so there's, like I said, lots of different things that we can do to tweak how this entire thing is looking. Okay.